Howdy, riders. Welcome back to Ride Between the Wines virtual edition or Zoom edition. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today's guest is all the way from Piemonte in Italy. It's Claudio Viberti, who is the winemaker for Berti Wines there. We'll be trying a couple of wines with him. We're going to hear about his family story, about the restaurant Buon Padre. It was extremely interesting and fun to talk to him for a few minutes. So if you're ready, buckle up. Let's ride.
The world we live in is an amazing one, full of passion, wonderment, and of course, fine wine. This is the story of one man's journey to fully understand and appreciate that world. So kick the tires and light the fires. It's time to ride between the wines.
It's Burgundian in style. Just a whisper of cherry.
Very nice legs.
This is so perfectly balanced.
Such an old world style.
Is this laced with tobacco? A total fruit bomb.
I say, so fancy!
Buongiorno. Oh, there you go. Now I can hear you.
Ehi là, ciao.
Ciao. Come
How are
stai?
you?
Well, how are you?
Cazzo, what a bear you have. It's bigger than mine.
You like it? Well, I don't have much up here, so.
Yeah, we can make exchange. Swap.
Uh,
Okay, let me just fix the volume.
okay.
How is the situation in your area now?
So we're opening up a little bit now. Our restaurants are about 50% capacity indoors, and then they're fully open for outdoor seating. And I would say maybe 75% of my restaurants are actually doing it, and some of them are still holding back to see, what's happening. How about you? What's it like?
No, the situation is catastrophic. Still locked down.
Yeah.
We're gonna open. The story of my family is we open we opened for making wine back in 1923.
Mm-hmm.
Just let me say something to my guys. Potete poi un attimino fermare sto casino? Che devo fare sta chiamata. Okay. I say my family started the restaurant business back in the days, and we still run 2 restaurants. So we are very into the restaurant business, and the restaurant business is for us very, very important. But here everything is closed. We give us authorization up to June 1st we can open. So we decide to open the first restaurant, Buon Padre, the historical, in 2 weeks' time, and next week the brand new one, the La Gemella. Those 2 names are actually the name of the wine you're working with. Great.
Oh, well, that's good. Well, hope y'all get open back up and everything goes kind of back to normal. That'll be nice. Okay, well, before we make questions, why don't we go ahead and start off and just tell me about your grandfather and your family and how you guys got from restaurants into winemaking.
So, avoiding any presentation, I will go briefly a chat with a friend. The family started back in 1896 when they were owning like a small inn. This was the building of Buon Padre restaurant. What is Buon Padre restaurant nowadays? And is a house in the hill of Barolo, in the upper part. It's just the road that from Barolo is take you down to the valley, down to south, where you go to Liguria. People that used to do trading, that used to do market and transports within North Italy and Liguria. They used to pass by this road, so they used to stop by for a meal, for a glass of wine, for a rest, few hours. It was like a modern motel in the old days. So this place was everything, because it was the tobacco shop, the restaurant, a place to sleep, and also what we call a drugstore, where you can buy basic dairy product like milk and bread, stuff like this. Then in 1923, my grandfather decided to produce his first house wine. It was not really a Barolo. I mean, it was a Barolo, but it was not saying Barolo in the label, because the goal for him was just branding and promoting Buon Padre. So the label was saying Vino del Buon Padre.
That's cool.
Just in the 60s, they start to call it Barolo Buon Padre. Let me show you something. Dammi con la bottiglia vecchia che ce l'hai. This, for example, was the label that was between early 1960s, and then nowadays time is still the same outlooking, and it is the label of the Barolo Buon Padre. So the house wine at the beginning was only served in the restaurant, and then people start to demand the label, so we start to sell the wine to the domestic market, so to the Italian market in was 1970s roughly. And then step by step, let's say the winery in the 80s took its own path, and the restaurant is still run and operated by us, but the winery become stronger, and it doesn't just sell the wine to the restaurant, but also to other restaurants all over the world. And the core business is still Barolo. The flagship is Barolo Buon Padre, and then we are stronger in the Barbera category and Dolcetto category. Dolcetto is what we drink in Piemonte as Monday to Friday wine. Okay, is our daily drinking wine. While And sorry, we're in the office. It's, but basically, Barolo in the old days was always the bottle to drink in a weekend, in a special occasion. Nowadays, the type of wine we start to produce from the late 90s, it's a more approachable Barolo. It's Barolos that can be very good to drink in the early days. So as soon as they are released, make an example, the new vintage 16 is beautiful. You can drink right away, so perfumed with a velvety tannin. It's not anymore the rush, the harsh, the astringent tannin that was part of the old days. But basically, that's the story. And to give you the new story of the family, we start to make the wine for the restaurant, and now we have a wine label that is called La Gemella Barbera that gave his name to another restaurant, a second restaurant we opened in Barolo called Locanda La Gemella. So it's a never-ending story. The link we have with the restaurant business. The estate, as we produce estate wines, it's roughly 20 hectares. That in acre, that in acre it's about 62 acres. And they are planted with 3 major varieties: Nebbiolo grapes, Barbera grapes, and Dolcetto grapes. And then we have a very small vineyards planted with Chardonnay. You might say Chardonnay is international, you can find it everywhere in the world. Yes, you're right, but you should know that in Barolo village, we don't have a local white varieties. So if you look for an indigenous white grapes from Barolo, it doesn't exist. So when we did think about a white wine back in 1988, it was Chardonnay. And the Chardonnay was made in oak from my father at the beginning. It was very oaky. It was very standard Chardonnay. When I started to be the winemaker, I said to my father, the wine was awful. I didn't like it. So we stopped making this label in 2004. Because the label was, was one of the 1,000 Chardonnay you can find on shelf everywhere. So I just revisited this label with the vintage 2018. I created the same label with a new name. It's called Rinato. Rinato meaning reborn, because it was a label that was made, and we bring back on track the label again, but not anymore oak age. It's lees age. So it's different because you have the fantastic like minerality and the terroir-driven wine that shows our estate. But then you have a wine that is also very balanced thanks to the aging. But
It's
it's not
absolutely,
separate.
it's absolutely delicious.
Yes, and then the Barolos. It's our business is Barolo. We produce Barolo that can be considered traditional Barolo. So we use big barrel for the aging.
Mm-hmm.
We don't use any barrique, any like a small barrel, and we do aging from 3 up to 4. Sometimes for some of our Barolos up to 5 years. Our single vineyards reserva before being bottled. So the way we use the oak, and because the oak is not toasted, never gives to the wine vanilla or oaky flavor. The wine are very pure and they always develop more perfume and varietal flavor. For the Barbera, we produce different label. The La Gemella, it's our like a no oak Barbera, and it's a Barbera that comes from high density vineyards planted at 6,500 vines hectares. So very dense on the way to make grapes more juicier. So this is what makes special the Gemella. The taste, it's not sharpened like many Barbera, but is round and velvety. So the wine is extremely good, not only in the winter time, but also in the summertime as like a summer red, because you can serve slightly chilled wine, and the acidity, even if it's there, is super smoothie. It's not like brisky in the acidity. And this is the way we approach this, the three grapes, the Nebbiolo, the Barbera, and the Chardonnay. But then I say the Dolcetto. Dolcetto, it's a grapes that tend to produce wine for the more younger drinking age. So it's not a grapes that loves to stay in oak and that loves to do aging. So what we do to make balance the wine is just a stainless steel storage for about 10 up to 12 months before go through the bottling. The wine is more rustic, so I discovered during my career traveling in the US market loves more our Barbera La Gemella because it's more juicier. And people love more the fruit forward that is in the wine, and because of the price level, this maybe is our label Monday to Friday for US, but in the domestic market, especially in Piemonte, what we drink Monday to Friday is Dolcetto. And then the Rosata, that is the only rosé wine produced in the commune of Barolo. I mean, still rosé, correct? It's, you notice the color is like a Côte de Provence.
It's very light, yes.
It's 100% Nebbiolo grapes here. And here it's a no appellation wine, because if we have an appellation here called Lange, it's like a regional appellation. But the appellation, the good thing about the appellation is they give us where pick up the grapes. The bad thing about the appellation on the rosé here in Piemonte, the winemaking technique are very strict and doesn't allow us to do our job, to do the best from the grapes. So the way we do our rosé is actually we do the same way we make in a white wine, but with the Nebbiolo. So we do the white juice, and then like they do in France for the Champagne rosé, we do the add of the red wine to make the color at the end of the storage. This allowed us to to get the color we like, because color is all about what you like. Because even if you do the short skin contact, you go shorter, you have pale color. You go longer, you have more like dark color. But what we like is this color. And to be precise, the only way is to produce our wine as a white, and then to just add the red, the same red that comes from the same vineyard at the end of the process of the storage.
Well, what were you saying about the legal restrictions and how you make rosé that are preventative? What are they?
Making rosé with the Lange DOC appellation doesn't allow you to add any red wines to the juice.
Oh, I see. So you just don't have the Lange appellation on it. Gotcha.
So, yeah. I mean, our vineyards are in Barolo. You can straight see in the label where we're coming from, but using the appellation will be for me a restriction to make such a good wine.
Gotcha.
But
Well, it's
this
delicious.
is the story of Italian bureaucracy.
I've heard.
Because if you just look at Sassicaia and you bring a label, I think before 1982, it was a red table wine. It was not even the appellation.
Yeah.
Because of the bureaucracy. You know, in Italy, we're very famous for it.
I've heard. So do you play a role in the Barolo consortium or anything towards changing?
Yeah, we are a part of the consortium, but for internal decision, we decide to never be part of the board.
Okay.
We don't want to be politically involved. We like our freedom.
Good for you. I like it.
We respect the rule, obviously, because the consortium is made by most of the Barolo producer, often, or we agree in everything they decide. It's a very good consortium. Maybe the only thing we're missing, but it's not about our consortium, it's more about Italian. Italian are very like individual.
Mm-hmm.
So we never really do big operation all together, like they do in the Champagne, in the Bordeaux area. But we like our individual like point of view, our way to make wine. We want to make our wine often make it special. So we want to be special. So Italians are definitely very like individual in this sense. It's a bad point, but it's also a good point for you as a consumer, because you can find more stories behind the label versus other part of the world where sometimes you know only the brand Bordeaux, but you don't know really the stories behind each brand. The beauty of Italy is behind each label there is a story of a person and of a family or a vineyards or many things.
Would you say that your neighbors are embracing the kind of style that you have with your Barolo now, where you don't have to age it forever? You're saying with the new vintage, you can drink it right out of the bottle?
Mike, there is, as I say, the media in the past divided Barolo into containers, two boxes, traditionalist and modernist. But I always say to be a good traditionalist, you need to bring a little bit of modern days. Otherwise, you will never be able to improve.
Right, you'd be left behind.
So what I like from the traditionalist was the use of specific type of barrel. Big one, never toasted. So barrel that were willing to never leave flavoring the wine, but always like develop and be a tool to let the wine be oxygenated. The modern Barolo producer bring to the wineries the barrique, the 225 liter barrel. Those barrels are by manufacturing, they are toasted. So the wine that aged inside it tend always to get more vanilla, more flavor that comes from the oak, and more like harsh and dry tannin that tend to fix the color in the more like darker side. This is not, I think, respecting the grapes, because when you use those type of tool, forget about the terroir-driven wine, forget about the grapes, because often you don't reckon where the wine comes from, because the nose is flat. So the big difference between the old days and the modern days is not really in the oak, because the oak is the tool they use. The major difference is in the timing of the skin contact, the maceration time, because years ago the skin contact was longer, because they used to pick up grapes very late, so the grapes were coming cold in the winery. So before the fermentation was taking place, it was taking a very long time. For what concern the nowadays time, we can be Poi torni giù tu. Torna un momento giù. Sorry, I just. In the modern days, we don't have anymore we don't have anymore to pick up the grapes very late because the vintages are warmer.
Mm-hmm.
So we pick the grapes earlier, and the grapes tend to be a little bit warmer when they are in the cellar. So we naturally often starts the fermentation very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And if not, we have technology in the cellar with tanks where we can preheat the tank. In this way, we have the maceration that is shorter and allowed us to get most of the good tannin.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do very long skin contact, you get the good tannin, but also you get the bad tannin, the astringent one, the green one. So I think the be shorter in the time of maceration is a modern technique that is very good also than if you tend to produce a traditional wine, because it's the improvement, the 2.0 level of the traditional Barolo. Long skin contact and long aging not always give you the best results for a Barolo. And also doesn't give you a Barolo that is immediately ready to be drank. It's a Barolo that reaches balance maybe after 10, 15 years. And I think it's a mistake. I don't think it's something good. We need to keep the tradition, to keep the roots, but to keep the roots, we need to use also what the modern days is giving to us, the technology, and also the know-how, the expertise that we develop over the years. So shorter skin contact for Viberti and big barrel for the aging. That's the resume of our winemaking style.
And the oak, it's not toasted, it's steamed?
Steam. We use pretty large barrel and they are called tini. We don't use really the botte, the horizontal. We use the vertical barrel because the vertical barrel to manufacture, when they fix the ring, they don't need too much heat to curve the piece of oak.
Okay.
So it's easy to manufacture the barrel, and the barrel is definitely more, it's actually the type of oak we want, neutral.
Nice. Well, I got to tell you, I'm having the 15 and it's absolutely delicious, ready to drink, balanced, complex. This is beautiful wine.
Yeah, 50. We were pretty lucky, we had 15, 16, two good vintages in a row. Then we're going to have, let's say 17, 18, 19 for everybody. Generic will be a good vintage. 18 will be more approachable.
Mm-hmm.
Very good to drink in the immediately drinking. But 17, it will be a vintage that the winner will be the farmer. People who pay attention to the timing. Because 17 was very hot and was sometimes the ripening in 17 was too quick. So the alcohol level, because of the sugar level, was reached, but the phenolic level sometimes was not reached or not balanced with the alcohol.
Okay.
So you might find in 17 some wine that maybe will be a little bit unbalanced. In our case, we did a very good job. We anticipated the harvest in each parcel with a pretty good timing. So I think we have a very good wine. 17, by the way, is a very good vintage for Barbera. Hot vintage, good for Barbera. Hot vintage are good for Nebbiolo when at the end of the ripening season, so September, October, you have then hot daytime and cold nighttime. So you have a bigger delta of temperature, while Barbera doesn't care. Barbera loves hot daytime, hot nighttime always.
Interesting. Just on the conversation of farming and grapes out in the field, can you talk a little bit about the cruise of Barolo?
Oh yeah, maybe let me see if I have something even better, because I might have a map I will show you. Let me see. Oh, here we are. Let me share the screen with you. Can I?
Please. Do I have to do something?
No, I'll do for you.
Okay.
No, I cannot share the screen. I'm unbelievable. No, I can't. Sorry. So the map of Barolo, if you give me a second, let me take a map on my.
Well,
just a moment.
okay.
Allora. Okay, this is the map of Barolo.
Okay.
Each color represents a crew, but basically we have two sides of the Barolo area. It's the west and the east side. There is 11 villages. The one in the west side tend to give you Barolos with more velvety tannin and perfumed nose. The east side tend to give you more Barolo with more austerity, more like drier tannin and more like tar nose, so less primary nose.
Okay.
More acidity is specifically in the area of Barolo where we are, because it's higher altitude vineyards, and less acidity in the lower hills. So basically here there is a map with each color representing a crew. So a crew means a specific group of vineyards in an area that tend to give to the grapes a special characteristic that makes the wine like a wine that has remarkable characteristic that we call it terroir driven.
Mm-hmm.
We own and manage vineyards in 7 crews, and we buy grapes from 3 crews. The Barolo Buon Padre is a classico. Classico for Barolo doesn't necessarily mean like in the Chianti Classico grapes that comes from a specific region. Classico for Barolo means blend of Nebbiolo from different crews. Then Barolo Cruz, it's 100% from same crews, and the name on label is the name of the crew.
Gotcha.
Buon Padre, for example, is a brand and is a Barolo Classico, so it's made with 10 crews. Those 10 crews are Bricco delle Viole, San Pietro, La Volta, Albarella, Bergera, Terlo, Ravera, and these are vineyards that we manage directly. And then we have Fossati, Monvigliero, and Perno. Those 3 are purchased grapes from 3 farmers that are working with us since the one from Perno, it's already 12 years now. The other 2, it's 4 years. So it's new. But when we start working with someone that are not under our estate, we ask 2 things. First, a minimum 17 years contract. So it's not like a short deal.
Right.
And then second point, they need to, the work in the vineyards need to be under our guideline, our like supervision. They cannot work as they like, because we work in a very like precise and specific way in the vineyards. We do have all the grass control within the vines by hand with the hoe. Then we do the way we control the grass and which grass is between the ranks. It's specific. We plant grass. So and which type we decide. Every year is different.
Right.
It's a little bit, for making good grapes is 80% of the quality of a wine. So it's then everything is easier afterwards. Anyway, in those crews we have that I mentioned, we have only Nebbiolo. In one crew called Bricco delle Viole, we are the only owner of vineyards of Barbera inside. So everything is Nebbiolo. There is one parcel that was planted in 1941 that is a Barbera that my family call it Bricco Airoli. Bricco Airoli is a fantasy name that was given by my grandfather because he doesn't want to call his Barbera like his Barolo Bricco delle Viole. So it's a vineyard that we consider or can be considered a clos, like in France. It's a special vineyard inside a cru. And this vineyard was maintained in mass selection over the past. So there is no one vine missing. And when one vine is dying, we change the vine with the same vine reproduced from the best one that are inside the vineyards. This is a selection that is important to maintain the same DNA of the vineyards. It's a beautiful vineyard. We work in these vineyards. 85% of the work is by hand, everything, because even like the soil, we try to maintain the balance, air and water. So it's something very special, and I'll be happy to send you for your follower a presentation that talks specifically about the cruise and also those labels where they're coming from.
Oh, I'd love to see that. All right. So as far as you're talking about how you guys maintain the grapes, both with your own and the ones that you're buying. What about organic? Is that something you guys ever mess with?
Yeah, we are certified sustainable.
Okay.
We were organic certified for 18 years, but I changed it to sustainable because, again, it's a bureaucracy matter. I think in our territory here, with our hill, I think the good compromise within the type of intervention, it's the good way to go. So the organic, for example, for all what concern the phytosanitary control, only allow the copper as a contact product, preserved from the mildew, from the fungus, from diseases. But I don't agree 100% because if it's a rainy season and you have a lot of, every time the rain wash your copper on your leaves, and you need to spread it again. So the risk to be organic is also to poison your soil.
Right.
So sometimes it's good to compromise the copper with some like a systemic product that makes the copper go inside the vine. So even if it rains or it's a rainy season, it will never be washed and it will never poison your soil. So you need to do a balance, like everything. I mean,
right.
It's like saying to you, okay, you cannot use the car anymore. Maybe you can. It's better use the bicycle if your accounts live closer to you, but otherwise you need to take the car. Maybe it's better for you. You need to organize your timing, your appointments to be sustainable. But if you just drive around like crazy, you will waste time, you will waste engine, and you create pollution. So
I agree with you completely. That's interesting. I like it. I know your time's precious. I'm asking like two more questions, then I'm gonna let you go.
No problem.
One of them was we talked about several of the names of your labels, Buon, Padre, obviously, and we're drinking the Gemella, which has the rosé is what I'm drinking, but also the Barbera. But the name Gemella, I don't think we talked about that. La Gemella, where that comes from.
Yeah, Gemella means twin sister because my mother is a twin sister. So this is a wine dedicated to my mom because she's a big Barbera fan. Okay. And you should know that especially in the early 2000, 2004, 2005, most of the good Barbera vineyards were replanted in Barolo with the Nebbiolo for a simple reason. It was more profitable.
I'm sure.
But my mother was the human spirit behind the project that she pushed hardly the winery to plant more Barbera. And the label is definitely a tribute to my mother.
Oh, I like that. That's nice.
Rosé, the story of the rosé, is a funny story. We planted the vineyards for producing, for increase a little bit our production on our Langhe Nebbiolo. Langhe Nebbiolo is our second label of the Barolo Buon Padre. It's the baby Barolo. We planted these vineyards, and after a year, we discovered that the vines, the clone type of the vines, it was not the one we choose and we with our supply, with our grower. And we found strange because these vines were, well, it was the Nebbiolo, but it was not the clone we would like. And then we discovered this was not the traditional Lampia that we use for our Barolos and the Nebbiolo. It was an old clone, family of clone called Rosé. This clone was disappeared from the let's say from the area in early 1990s, and most of those vineyards were replanted with Nebbiolo Lampia because the Lampia is more give more consistency on the quality level, on the ripening, is more productive, it's more optimal, let's say. The Rosé has a ton of problem. It's less productive, the ripening, the phenolic ripening is always more problematic. So soon, but the vineyards was planted. So what we gonna do? And soon as we discover this, we say, okay, we're gonna make a new label. This will be our Rosé, because we're gonna have problem on phenolic anyway. And the Rosé, the only thing we don't need is the phenolic ripening in terms of color. I mean. So we start to produce the Rosé because of a mistake we have done in the farm. But this was not in our plan, making Rosé. That's why also the production is pretty limited, because we do total production a year, it's 800 cases.
Oh, yeah, it's
700,
teeny.
800. We give to US national 350, 400 cases a year. It's limited.
That's great. I didn't realize that. Well, it's great. It's delicious.
For that price and limited production, I will buy it.
Me too. All right. Well, I think maybe the last question that I want to ask you is in the area, just a little bit about food, especially because you have such a restaurant background within the family of the winery. What are some great pairings? What do people eat and drink in Piemonte that go well with Barolo versus Dolcetta, and et cetera?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Oh, that's okay. No, I was just saying, what would you say are the typical food of Piemonte, and what are some typical pairings with maybe Barolo versus Dolcetto that domestically you would find people drinking and eating?
In a typical Piemonte meal, we always start with a bottle of Dolcetto or either Barbera, and then we follow with a bottle of Nebbiolo or Barolos. What we generally like pair, I mean, for the Barbera, everything that is on grill is perfect. So even like steak or things like more fat food, like pork belly, it's very good. While Nebbiolos wine or Barolo, they need the more tender cut, like filet mignon or even braised meats that are a little bit softer in cooking. What concern the Dolcetto, it's what we drink with pasta, eggs pasta. We do the tagliarino, we do the plin that are more like tiny dumpling. That's more Dolcetto pasta, Dolcetto food. And then Barbera is also very good for cheese, like the Barolo as well. But stronger cheese, better with Barbera. More tender cheese or herbs cheese is more with Barolo. And all the Barolos goes well with dark chocolate. Dark chocolate and orange peel. The bitter-sweet feeling is very good.
Well, Claudio, thank you so much for your time, man. This has been awesome. I look forward to putting this together and selling more of your wine.
Thank you, and I hope your support, and make sure you have some samples for your clients.
Oh, yeah. We'll definitely take out a bag, at least one. Thank you. Bye.
Ciao, Mike. Ciao.
Ciao. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed the feature. Claudio Viberti, I think, is fantastic. Try his wines at some point.
Now I'm going back to an old segment I did when we did the audio-only version, which was Take 5, which is where I would call somebody randomly on the phone and ask them 5 questions. Well, now that we're doing video, I think this is a perfect time to start Take 5 up again. And what better group of people to talk to right now than local restaurateurs? So today I'm joined by Mike. You know, Mike, I'm going to ask you 6 questions. It's supposed to only be 5, but I feel like it's been way too long for me to ask you this. But how do you pronounce your last name?
Duganier. It was Duganiero when my grandfather came over from Italy, and they cut the O off his name. I went from Duganiero to Duganier.
I'm glad I asked. I would have said it completely wrong. So Mike Duganier from Publico. So very excited to have you here, Mike. I'm gonna look at you and talk to you. But welcome. Thanks for being on my podcast for Take 5, and let's get started.
Okay.
So, question number 1. Last meal on Earth. I want to know food and drink for the very last meal that you could pick that you will ever have in this world.
Okay. It would have to be my mother's sauce and some meatballs, maybe a little Italian sausage. I feel like I eat sushi a lot more. I love obviously all the food that we do here with our ramen and our tacos. If it was the last thing I was gonna eat, it'd be my mother's pasta and meatballs. Drink with that, I'm a big fan of Super Tuscans. So maybe a really big fat Super Tuscan. I'm not really quite sure which one, but that's where I'd go probably.
I love it. I'm not far off from that. You can't beat noodles and sauce. I haven't had your mom's, but yeah, they're delicious. That's right up my alley. All right, question number 2. I wonder if these numbers are going to show up backwards on my screen. I've never tried this. I might have to write them backwards. Question number 2, story time. Give me your funniest story from this restaurant.
Funniest story. There's probably a lot. Being put on the spot, I would say if anyone's been through a restaurant opening or just been in the restaurant business, but a restaurant opening can be pretty intense. And with everything that can go wrong during an opening, ours fell on Friday the 13th. So I thought it was kind of...
store open on Friday the 13th?
Yeah, it was November 13th, Friday the 13th, 2015, that after finally getting a chance to get open and running around to make sure we had the right permits and everything, and our staff was trained and orders are coming in and I'm getting pulled in 12 directions, it fell on Friday the 13th. And I kind of told the staff to embrace that and let's have fun with it. And so that was kind of a unique and funny story.
Oh, that's great. That's a very Publico kind of thing to do.
Yeah, right.
Friday the 13th. Let's just go with it. Yeah. All right. Back in action.
Yep.
Question number 3. This is called Booze Clues.
Okay.
I'm going to give you some clues. I want you to give me the
Blues Clues. Blues Clues, yeah.
The place, the patio, out at Publico. The time, late afternoon, about now. The weather, upper 80s. What's the drink?
Man, typically for me, I get boring. I'll get a nice glass of like Sauv Blanc. But I would say you have to, even though it's 80s, you're saying, I would still throw down a spicy Publico margarita. Our house ingredients, but it's basically a skinny for the most part. But I love heat in heat. I like the spiciness of the jalapenos being infused, and I love some sunshine. So I'd go Publico spicy margarita.
I don't doubt it a bit. That's great. That's a good one. Almost done.
And I'm not doing these wine answers because you're Mike the wine guy. I just, I do enjoy myself some vino here and there.
You got Super Tuscan in there. We're good. You said Sauv Blanc.
Sauv Blanc,
So,
yeah.
Question number 4.
Yeah.
This is I was yelling. This is a good one.
Okay.
Question number 4. Music 101. Now, I'm eliminating Frank Sinatra because I know
Why are you
that's
eliminating Frank?
the obvious answer
Okay.
and nothing else will
Okay.
matter. But eliminating him,
Francis.
that being said,
Okay.
of these 3 artists, who do you prefer?
Okay.
Taylor Swift,
Love me some T Swift.
Outkast,
Okay.
or Hootie and the Blowfish?
Man. That was the only 3 I get. No Dean
Well, they all
Martin.
have a connection to him.
I would go, and not just because we're here in Columbia, but I'd go with Darius and go with Hootie because I do love country as well, and he's done a great job with country music. I like all three honestly, but I'd go Hootie.
I was testing you because
I bought the Hootie album in 1995 when it came out, and I was 15 years old. So go ahead.
Well, because Hootie's Columbia, Outkast is Atlanta,
Yep.
Publico number 2, and then Taylor Swift is kind of Nashville, which I just know is near and dear to your heart.
Yes, it is.
So
Yeah,
there you
yeah,
go.
yeah. But
You
we'll
passed the
go
test.
Hootie. Yeah, yeah.
All right. Number 5, fifth and final question. Sticking the landing. So let's stick the landing. What makes Publico so special?
Okay, there's a lot of things, and I'm going to give you kind of two answers. One of them is ever since we've opened, the employees, the Publico family, have been just a group of kids and young adults over the last 4.5 years, regardless of when they graduate and they move on, and a new crew comes in. They've always been really, really good people, good kids, good young adults. They care. They've made this place special. The community welcomed us 4.5 years ago after a staple had left. You know, they could have easily not wanted to come once one of their favorite restaurants was gone, but they've welcomed us with open arms. We made a lot of great friends over the last 4.5 years in our community and our neighbors. But what makes this place really near and dear to my heart was in the last 22 years, I've moved around the U.S. like I think 19 different cities, and so I left home at 18. And so the fact that out of all these moves, when we started Publico, our first Publico was right here in Columbia, South Carolina. It brought me to South Carolina, and my parents had moved to Myrtle Beach from Buffalo, New York, and it was the first time in close to 20 years that I was within an hour-and-a-half drive. And when we started building and painting and doing demolition and whatever we were doing in this building to make it Publico, they would come to town on an easy hour-and-a-half drive, and they were a part of that summer with me and my business partner putting Publico together. And I got to spend quality time for the first time in 20 years, more than just Christmas. You know, once a year. It was every other week they were coming to town, and they were getting dirty, and they were building tables, painting the walls, cleaning, you name it. And that is what makes this restaurant special to me. Yeah.
I love that. Well, if you have never been to Publico, we're in 5 Points, right in the center of 5 Points here. Please come out, check it out. Amazing patio, has been very well. You guys, what you turned that parking lot into is crazy out there. The food is great. It's all over the place, you know, and obviously the wine is great and the food's great. So coming out, I'll tag them into this post so you can see it. Otherwise, thanks so much.
Thanks so much. Always fun talking to you.
The same. And there you have it. Another episode down. I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly did. Thank you so much to Claudio Viberti for his time. Very, very cool. If you have not tried these wines, please go out and try them. The Buon Padre is fantastic. The rosé that we tried, the Gemella, is absolutely delicious. Great wines. And if you haven't experienced Piemonte and Barolos, you need to do that anyways. Please join next week when we have Maurizio Zanella, who is from Cotalbosco, the proprietor, the founder. If you don't know what Franciacorta is, haven't heard of Cotalbosco, please grab some to drink along with us. But that will be coming out next week. And please like, subscribe, hit the little button, wherever it is. Tell your friends, write a good review. This is also available in audio. And if you're listening on audio, it's also available in video on YouTube. So otherwise, thanks very much. See you next week. Till then, chin chin.